तत्सवितुर्वरेण्यं भर्गो देवस्य धीमहि धियो यो न प्रचोदयात् ॐ भूर्भुवस्वः तत्सवितुर्वरेण्यं भर्गो देवस्य धीमहि धियो यो न प्रचोदयात् ॐ भूर्भुवस्वः तत्सवितुर्वरेण्यं भर्गो देवस्य धीमहि धियो यो न प्रचोदयात् ॐ शांति 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 धियो यो न प्रचोदयात् ॐ भूर्भुवस्वः. Okay, who's that? Someone's. Can you mute everybody, hey, please? And prop from Andy. Okay, so I'm just going to do a quick introduction. First of all, thank you, everybody, and welcome, everybody. So this evening, we'll be hearing from Mayor of West Midlands, which is Andy Street, who was first elected in May 2017, I believe, and then re-elected in May 2021. So today, Andy will talk about his vision and his plans for the region since his re-election, especially as we have come out of COVID. So there's a lot of pressure, I believe, on Andy to deliver now as we're out the COVID pandemic. Today, we want to know what Andy can deliver to the Hindu community in the way of investments and how he will engage with the community of the Hindu community on the transport, building on brownfield sites, the environment plan, and the target of 100,000 jobs, which is, I believe, is in your manifesto, which is quite a big something to deliver on. Today, we also discuss the agenda of the benefit, how Andy will be engaging with the Hindu community and how we as the Hindu community can support Andy and deliver as much as we can for the benefit of society that we all live in. So I'm going to hand over to Andy to talk about and let us know how he's going to deliver, and then we'll open up the Q&A. Please hold back your questions till after Andy has finished what he's going to say, or pop it up in the comments box and we will ask the questions on your behalf. Andy, over to yourself.
Namaste and good evening, everybody. And Jazz, thank you very much for bringing us all together. And indeed, thank you to the Hindu Council for bringing all of your leaders together as well. So I think I can be quite brief in my remarks because I suspect lots of people have had a long working day, and another hour of Zoom can be a little tiring. But the fun is always in the questions and answers in these sessions. So we'll try to get to that pretty quickly. But let me just, first of all, try to give you a summary of what I've tried to do as mayor and indeed what the current issues are. So as Jazz says, I was lucky enough to be elected, first of all, in 2017. And we talked about restoring this region as a leading place, pride in the region. And for the first 3 years pre-pandemic, things were going pretty well. We got to ourselves in the turn of the winter of 2019, beginning of 2020, to a position of record employment, record investment. And I think lots of people said, you know, this place is really on a roll. We're looking forward to what we call the golden decade for Birmingham and the West Midlands. COVID came. It gave us an incredible hit, as we know. And I know there'll be many on the call who were personally affected very badly by it. And so the task really that I outlined in the manifesto last May, when of course we were just beginning to come out of COVID, was the role of the mayor is to lead the recovery from COVID. It means a number of things. First and foremost, it means jobs and economic success. In the course of COVID, about 80,000 jobs were lost across the West Midlands. So we talked about a target of 100,000 jobs in 2 years. You're absolutely right, Jazz. We've never grown faster than that before. And there is a sort of, oh my goodness, have I been a bit over enthusiastic there? But I did an update for all citizens. You might have had a newspaper through your letterboxes in February. And we said, actually, we'd managed to reduce the claimant count by 54,000 in the first 9 months. So there was real evidence of good growth. And the way we're doing that, of course, is thinking about the vibrant parts of the economy. How do we get behind those, making the most of the big opportunities, whether it be HS2, whether it be Commonwealth Games, where I'm sure there'll be some questions. Which sectors have we got brilliant opportunities in? The electric vehicle sector, for example, lots we can talk about there. And of course, construction, that was an area that was growing very fast. How are we going to get that back quickly? So lots of opportunities there. And then we were also saying, and it's the job of the mayor to lead these things, the economy doesn't just grow on its own. Of course, great businesses lead it, but you've got to make sure that all the things that feed into it are brilliant. So brilliant transport, so people can get to the jobs being created. We encourage inward investors to come. And that's why, and I'm sure we can talk a lot about that as well, and why we've actually increased our capital investment in transport by 7 times since before I was mayor. And then, of course, you've got to make sure people are trained and skilled. And so one of the things I'm really proud of is the work we've tried to do to reskill people who lost their jobs in the boot camps, for example, and we've now got a much, much better qualified workforce than we used to have. And then, of course, you also have to make sure there's the right houses and sufficient of them. So important, particularly for people just stepping out on life. So all the work that Jazz just talked about trying to build more homes, but make sure they're on brownfield sites, not destroy our beloved greenfield sites and greenbelt, that's going really well. Before the pandemic, a record number of homes being built in the West Midlands, and that's held up very well, the huge majority on brownfield sites. And then, of course, we've got to think of our climate and our environment going forward. So what I'm really pleased about in the West Midlands is we have a very clear plan that we call WM 2041 to get to carbon neutrality by 2041. And we've actually been looking across transport to green that, business, and of course our homes. And we're just beginning to get cash for retrofitting people's homes, make them more efficient, and of course making sure our new buildings are very efficient as well. So a huge responsibility there. One of the things I really love is if you look at our investment in transport in Coventry, we won the competition to be the first all-electric city for our buses, and we're now moving to hydrogen buses in Birmingham as well. So you see real practical examples of progress there. And then perhaps the last thing I wanted to say by way of introduction is I'm a huge believer that this region, we all understand its diversity, the complexity of its communities. I'm a huge believer that every community here has to thrive. And of course, that means understanding the faiths. And I've tried, to the question that Jazz mentioned, I've tried to engage with the Hindu community, understanding your different festivals, visiting your temples and mandirs, standing up for the rights of the community. And of course, I've tried also to make sure that our links with India as a huge investor, a huge sort of driver of culture in this region are really, really good as well. And one of the statistics I'm so pleased with at the moment is in the last year, over half of all investment into India, from India in total into the UK, came to the West Midlands. Over half of all of it came to the West Midlands. And that's partly because we forged brilliant links through what we call the West Midlands India Partnership, which is helping Indian companies come and invest here. And just one really practical, lovely story, because it was just announced on Monday. Norton Motorcycles, an old British brand, now owned by TBS of India, investing £100 million in the new facility in Solihull, employing up to 250 people there. So you can see how that link with India really makes a practical difference on the ground. So Jazz, I will stop there because there could be so much more. But as I say, the fun is always in the Q&A.
Well, it's always good. Like, yeah, we would like to hear more as well. But I'll start off with one. I don't know if it's your remit or not. I know during the pandemic, as you know, a lot of people did pass away and, died, unfortunately, due to COVID. And our temples struggle with bringing priests over from India with the visas. I don't know if it's your remit or if there's any advice or anything that you can offer. What happens is when the visas get rejected, it's a sponsorship license that you have. You lose those licenses. It takes too long to do. You engage with the local MP. They do try to help as much as we can. How can we overcome the obstacles? So make sure that our temples are supported with the Minister of Religion or the religious workers that are needed, so we can continue to do the good work the temple does on grassroots levels and engaging the community and advising them whatever's necessary. Well,
let me just say, first of all, and I'll come to your question head on, but let me say, first of all, thank you to all of your temples for what you did during the pandemic. Because one of the general points I learned during the pandemic was the most important sort of resource in the whole of the West Midlands was the strength of all of the faith institutions. And obviously your temples were paramount amongst them. The support you gave to your community is absolutely outstanding. And I learned that politicians could ask people to go and get vaccinated. No one took any notice. But when the leaders of the temples asked for something to happen, it tended to happen. So genuinely, thank you for the role you played in seeing the communities through. Now, in terms of the visas, straight answer, it's not my direct responsibility. It is the responsibility of the Home Office, as you will know, to issue the visas. But I am more than happy to take up the general case. One of the lovely things about my job is, in a sense, even if you're not responsible directly for things, you can put your nose into everything. You've got a sort of power of representing 3 million people across the West Midlands. So you can bang on the door of the Home Office and say, this isn't right. Can we take this issue forward for you? So I didn't understand that issue at the time, and my apologies if that didn't percolate through, but I am more than happy to pick up the principle of the issue with those who are looking at visa rules in the Home Office.
Yeah, I think that's quite essential, because I know a lot of temples are struggling right now, and I think because of the COVID, a lot of visas are getting rejected, even from, I can speak from our temple, which is Maharshi Shakti Mandir in Willenhall in Warsaw.
Yeah.
On 4 separate occasions, continuously they've been rejected for no reason at all. You look at the reasons for rejection, whatever they say, it's already been addressed in the paperwork, but they don't even look at it. So this is a bit of a serious concern, and there seems to be an underlying issue which definitely needs addressing.
We will definitely pick it up then, Jazz, because I mean, it's straightforward. People are coming to do a very recognised job, so there can't be any question about that.
Yeah. Narinder Kumarji, I believe you've got your hand up. If you take yourself off mute, yeah.
Yeah. I was so happy to listen Andy Street's beginning. Namaste. Namaste is from 4 Vedas, Ved Mantra. Namaste means, basically it means, I greet you. I'm happy to welcome you. So thank you, Andy Street, for starting with the Namaste. Briefly, there are 2 questions which affect our Hindu community. And first question about this cremation. Hindu community have been facing unnecessary delays in cremating their loved ones. And we have a register, our priest, minister of religion, R. Samaj, Vedic Mission, West Midlands. And I'm happy, Andy, you attended our opening ceremony on 29th of April 2018.
Yes.
So our priest has maintained the cremations, and he did a lot of cremations over COVID-19 period.
Yes.
And he talked to me and various members of my R. Samaj community spoke to me about unnecessary delays. And you know, I worked in NHS for more than 34 years. I retired 10 years ago as a consultant in A&E from Kidderminster Rooster. So the most delaying thing is issue of death certificates. The death certificates, I know NHS is very overworked, this and that, but just giving priority in most of the ordinary situations, the death certificates, and it can be issued within a couple of days, but it's taking 6 days, 8 days, 10 days. So I understand when the coroner has to decide about postmortem, and if postmortem is held, those death certificates will take time. But in most situations, 99% the cases, the death certificates can be issued within 2 to 3 days. Like when I die, according to I follow Vedas, true teachings of Vedas. According to Vedas, an individual, once he is dead, he or she is dead, then all the related sacraments or rituals should be completed within 4 days from the date of death. And some Hindu communities, they can go up to 13 days. Yeah. So, but there is unnecessary delay. And the till relatives get a death certificate, they cannot book any crematorium, nothing. So that can be easily solved through your office if you kindly help make relevant authorities aware
Yes.
Please,
Okay. Well,
What's the question there? Sorry, Narendraji.
well, I think it's, can I do anything to help on that? Is that right, Narendra?
Sorry?
Is the question, can I do anything to help on that?
Yeah, and
yeah. Let me respond, Narendra, and that's fine,
okay.
Jack.
And then I will ask you second question.
Okay, let me respond to that one. So my understanding was that for the majority of the Hindu community, there was a 13-day requirement to meet beliefs. So it should be easy, frankly, easy to achieve that unless there's a post-mortem, as you say. And just in terms of who's responsible again, the death certificate, as you will know, is actually issued by the registry office, but it has to have the hospital or doctor input into it. So the people whose job it is to make sure that this is done on time is the registry office. So I am more than happy that if it's a particular borough registry office that's not doing this, because a lot of them really do understand all of the different faith requirements and are extremely good, I would say, is my own experience. And when I had to deal with them personally in Birmingham, it was incredibly quick. But if there's a particular office that you feel is not doing that, I will personally take it up with them because it should be eminently avoidable. Is it Sandwell or Dudley for yourself?
It's Dudley in but most of the cases are in Birmingham. Sandwell and Sutton Coldfield, and there's quite a few, Solihull.
Really?
So there could be something from your office to make these people more aware.
Yeah.
You have to get on with it.
I think generally, they are aware. And as I say, they are very, very, conscious of the different faith requirements. But again, I'm very happy to take it up, particularly if you think there's a particular office that's letting you down. Yeah.
And the second question is more relevant to, our Samaj, West Midlands, Birmingham.
Yes.
We bought this 100-year-old Methodist church, 321 Rookery Road.
Yes, I know. I came to visit it, as you say. Wonderful occasion.
Yeah, and we have difficulty with car parking. We approached highways, and they just said, no, they can't give any car parking reserved for members attending our Samaj events or functions. And the other thing, we try to get even disabled parking on Rookery Road and Farnham Road, but we're not making any headway. We get a standard reply from highways, and we have been working on it for more than a year.
Okay, so my policy advisor, Suki Nija, is on the line as well. I think she'll know the temple as well. So I'm more than happy that we pick this up this is a Highways Authority piece, as you say, but we can pick this up as well. But I know exactly the place that you mean.
We get the standard reply from highways, or we can't do it, So
perhaps you need a little bit of help in who's asking about it. So I will, of course, volunteer to do that. But and I presume your temple is a huge success, because when you set it up, it seemed to have incredible momentum.
It is running, but as just said, we were all very much affected by this COVID.
Yeah.
2 years it was practically shut, and we were doing Sunday congregation through Zoom. Since 5th of April 2020, we have been doing congregation. Now, last couple of months, we are open now.
You're back. Good. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Narendra.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Jaintilalji, you're on mute. Jaintilalji, just take yourself off mute, please. Magical moment. Yeah, that's it.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Yeah, thank you for attending, Andrew. I want to touch on two areas. One is planning applications by Hindus, whether it is their place of religion or community hall or even private residence. We find that when we apply, get for planning applications, more stringent rules are imposed on us. Whereas we see our neighbors, they get away with it, some of the things they want to do. For example, planning permission is given without even a car park, whereas we were asked to, we can't get a planning permission without a car park. Now, how can that happen? Now, people have suggested that we Hindus haven't got enough officers in all various councils. Now, there's a tremendous Hindu population in West Midlands. And if you look at, I haven't got the figures, but you probably have access to the figures from human resources. Why are the Hindu percentage not represented in council jobs? And compared to other faiths, for example. I haven't got the figures, so I can't say, but you can see it, that there are not many Hindus in City Council, especially Birmingham City Council, compared to the population of Birmingham. So if there was, say, 5% of Hindus living in Birmingham, I would expect 5% of the workers in City Council to be Hindus. So that's one area. The other thing is certain shopping centers along Stratford Road, for example, Springfield, the shopkeepers are displaying their goods beyond their boundary. And it's making very difficult for us shoppers, especially elderly ladies with wheelchairs or young ladies with prams. They can't walk, they just can't walk. And they're leaving everything dirty, all the fruits lying on the footway, the official footway, not on there. And they also, the shopkeepers, put cones, their own cones in the parking bay. So we can't go and park. I mean, they don't have a right to put the cones there. They say, oh, somebody is coming to deliver. But I mean, they don't know what time they're coming and so on. But it basically is the dirtiness and they're narrowing the area people, the official area that people can walk on.
Okay. So let's just start right at the beginning, because you said something really, really important. It cannot be that one group, frankly, whether they be Hindus, Sikhs, Christians, Muslims, or anybody, is getting a worse set of planning outcomes. That is utterly illegal, as well as being utterly immoral. So if there is evidence that that really is happening, that's a very serious allegation, and it should be challenged at the highest levels. I can't have the knowledge that you have of your applications, obviously not, but I personally find it surprising that there could be in any way a systemic approach to that. I genuinely just do not believe that could possibly happen, because it would be completely impossible. If you think there is something you want, there's evidence of that, I'm more than happy to hear it, and we would obviously take that up. But I find it cannot be the case. It really just cannot possibly be so. In terms of the Springfield, Stratford Road in Springfield, I mean, obviously the good thing is it's incredibly successful shopping area. Not many vacant units there at all. But what you're talking about is the enforcement that needs to occur for trading over to the pavement. And again, I hate to say it, but the truth there is that that is a City Council enforcement officer piece. And again, if you feel that's not being done properly, I'm more than happy to take it up with them. I think, Jazz, what's come out so far, and I feel bad about this, but the questions I've been asked have all been about City Council responsibilities.
My next question was going to stop everything and say, look, Andy, it might be a good idea for you to define your role, what your remit is.
Yeah.
City Council, well, I'll explain what City Council is. And then if you tell us what your remit is, what you overlook, and what your agendas are, I think that'd be a lot more easier, so then people don't get distracted in the light of what's your remit and what's City Council. and what's the end?
But I am always happy to take up, because we have casework. So if anything comes into me that's not my remit, I do have ways of following it up through those who can respond. But in terms of my remit, if you think of the things I talked about, first of all, it's the economic performance of the West Midlands. So what jobs are people getting? What investment is coming in? So we run, for example, the growth company that goes around the world selling the West Midlands. I'm off to Canada in 2 weeks' time to do all the business promotion around that, the business promotion on the back of the Commonwealth Games. So that's all with me, the jobs and skills. The transport is all with me. So if people say the train doesn't run to so-and-so, that's my problem. Of course, dare I say it, the wretched tram difficulties at the moment are my problem. The way in which we fund all the bus services, that's all of my difficulty as well. And critically, the investment in new transport facilities. And then, of course, this whole question about skills training. So we run the adult education budgets. We work with our FE colleges on what's being provided. So the whole question about, for example, where are people going to get, take a big investor like HS2. They have to think about where their recruits come. It's our job to develop the training with them there. We've also stepped into this whole issue of climate change and environmental policies. And of course, also, as I said in my talk, we're also very much responsible for bringing in cash that then does big regeneration projects and of course does big housing projects. So I hope, Jazz, that's helpful.
Yeah,
there's lots there. But I never wanted to run the council services. They still do that, for better or worse.
We need input. I think what happens, I think people get mixed up between maybe this different lines between West Midlands mayor and the London mayor, because the London mayor seems to have a lot more control of the council, over policing and legislation, etc., I believe. Well,
nearly right. The councils in London still do all the same things. So rubbish collection in Westminster and all that, the control of parking that we've been talking about, all of that is with the councils in London, no different. The mayor in London has one big responsibility that I don't have, and that is the policing. Here we have a separately elected police and crime commissioners, but the job of the local authority, whether it be Sandwell Council, Birmingham, or even Westminster or Wandsworth, that's basically the same.
I'll come to you on that. I think, Nitish, you want to ask a question?
Yeah, hi Andy, can you hear me?
Yeah, you can. Yeah.
Andy, two questions related to you. First and foremost is you've been involved in Indian community by visiting various, India is as big like Europe, various different regions. How do you plan to restart that process again after pandemic? And do you want me to ask the second question now?
Sorry, Nitish, I didn't quite get the first one. Was it visiting Indian regions, i.e. in India?
No, what I meant was you've been visiting all the Indian state events with various different
that's
groups,
right. Yes.
Which has taken a big hit post-pandemic because everything went virtual. How do you plan to restart the whole process again? That was my first question.
Yeah. Okay. Let's
Can I have
deal with
the second question, or sorry, so you answer.
I'll deal with that. I'll deal with that first. So actually, I said in my introductory remarks that I feel the person representing the West Midlands around the world really needs to understand the communities in the West Midlands, be part of them, stand up for them. And that's why I shall get this list wrong, I'm sure, but sort of off the top of my head, I've tried hard to get involved in the big festivals. So obviously the biggest of the year is Diwali, and we've put together this celebration in the centre of Birmingham, as well as there's been events at other areas across the region I've been to. Then, of course, Holi in the spring. We've put on events. I think the last one was actually at the Balaji Temple in Tibbydale, and we will be bringing that back. Then other events, I've been as a guest for them. So Navratri, I've been to the Gurji Pudwa, if I correctly pronounce it. My apologies if I don't. And of course, the Makasranchi as well. So a number of events where I go as a guest. How do we restart? I need the invitations again, frankly, but I'm very happy to come and to understand, because it really, I think, really does help, particularly when we're thinking about this critical issue of can we use this to build community strength, but also as a bridge to India itself.
Thank you. Andy, on a different note, I think if you are in your remit is transport.
Yes.
So you know that Indian communities give a very high value on education, wealth creation. So many of our kids go to local schools in Birmingham, Camp Hill, Edgbaston. These are the areas where most of our kids go to. currently commuting from Birmingham Central or say Moore Street or New Street to the respective schools is extremely challenging because they have to go by bus. Is there anything in pipeline to improve the infrastructure?
Oh, yeah. Well, actually, you asked me, it's very fortuitous some questions are, because I think you mentioned Camp Hill, which is actually quite difficult to get to. So there will be a new train line, and one of the stations, and people might have seen this in the press last week, actually, that we've just awarded the contract for the building of these stations. Same contractor as is doing University Station, which is obviously relevant to some of the schools there. But it will be, that station will be literally on the corner of Cartland Road and Pineapple Road. We don't know quite what we're going to call it yet, Hazelwell or Sturchley or something, but it's actually a stone's throw from Camp Hill. So that's very fortuitous, actually.
So that would really be useful for all the kids going to local grammar schools. Thank you.
Well, it's definitely happening. I think when I said 5 years ago we were going to try to make this happen, people thought can't, won't. People just make these promises and then it doesn't happen. But I think you can see, if you just think how much of the city is being dug up at the moment, let's just think about it. The Walsall Road with a brand new station at Perry Bar, the Coventry Road with the sprint route coming through. Then we've just talked about what's going on at University Station. We know now we're going to be building this new line through South Birmingham. We're building Walsall and Wolverhampton. We're building the sprint all up the Walsall Road as well. So, and of course, we all know about the metro extension to Edgbaston. So almost every quadrant of the city's got some investment, and we're trying to make sure that stretches right across the region.
Thank you.
We definitely know about the investments in Perry Bar because we know a 50-minute journey takes 1 hour now.
Yes, yeah, yes. I thought somebody might say that if I mentioned it. The good news is the work is very nearly completed, and so hopefully it will all be flowing more easily then.
Okay, excellent. We've got a question from Dilip. What role can Hindus play to help the Conservative Party in Birmingham, both at local and national level?
Well, actually, I'm going to link that question to a question, and I'm really sorry, I didn't get the name of the questioner just before Nitish. My apologies. But he was asking about Hindu representation. Now, he was basically asking about officer representation. But I actually think there's a really important point about politically elected representatives as well. I would dearly like to see more councillors from the Hindu faith in all areas. There are some in Walsall, in Coventry, in Wolverhampton. I just got to check my sort of running around my own mind on this, but not as many as there should be in terms of what we would be asked before to think about proportionality. And actually, I think a successful democracy should have in its representatives a good reflection of the citizens it serves. And so bluntly put, I'd like far more people from the Hindu community to get involved at grassroots in, obviously, my party, but actually, if it had to be another party as well, it still needs to happen. Because we need those voices around the council table and then eventually becoming MPs. And if you look at what's happened to the Conservative Party MP group, we've now got a Muslim MP in terms of in the West Midlands, in terms of Saki Bhatti for Meriden. I would dearly like us to have a Hindu MP as well in this region. That seems the right thing to do. And there's absolutely no reason why it couldn't happen.
So if just a quick claim with devil's advocate, if you know it's required and you definitely want more Hindus, what have you done since 2017?
Yeah, we've done
to bring them on board, to entice them?
We've done quite a lot actually. And it takes time to feed through, but we've done two very important things. First of all, we've run in a number of council areas, almost like training sessions for people who wanted to become potential councillors. And we ran them out of what we called our Leadership Commission in the Combined Authority, some of the councils in the Black Country. And what we did as a party, and I organised this personally, we did a big reception where we brought the chair of the party and those responsible for candidates in the party along to a central Birmingham location. We had about 300 guests, all from different minority communities, to encourage them to step forward. And I hope he wouldn't mind me saying this. Raj Shamji, our candidate for Perry Bar, was someone who actually came through that process. Perry Bar last general election came through that process. So there's clear evidence that we were trying to do that. Yeah.
Yes. Before I come to James, there's 2 more questions, so I'll just hold the line there. Well,
can I just say one thing, Jazz? And if
yes.
there's anyone on the line thinking, I'd like to get involved in that and the question themselves, please reach out directly, because this is it's a very important point, and I'd love to hear from you directly.
Well, we'll keep that definitely line open, and if we hear anything as well, we'll keep you posted on that. So,
Jazz,
yeah.
Jazz, just one, whilst Andy mentioned about we've got the councillors. We've got Dr. Nitish Rao, who's a councillor, and he's going for re-election as well. Myself and Humirbai actually went and campaigned for him on Saturday, leafleting. And it's a good way of for other people to look at what Dr. Nitish Rao is doing and how far he's come. And not just him, and obviously with Raj Shamji as well a few years ago, I actually sort of helped to campaign for him as well. So that is quite good. And also, how can Hindus get involved is joining a party. I've joined this Conservative Party. And through there, and the Conservative chairperson for Beribari is Stephen, I forgot his surname, and just join in and just get involved.
Brilliant. Thank you.
Excellent. I've got one question from Suresh. What is the total amount of investment from India since you've become mayor, and what was before you became the mayor?
Oh gosh, I don't know the exact number. It's growing. It's if you want me to find out the exact number, I will get it for you. But I don't know the stats in that way. But I'll tell you 2 things that are very, very important here. India is now the 2nd biggest investor into the UK. And it didn't used to be. So India is becoming dramatically more important to us. And our share in the West Midlands of that investment is going up rapidly. And as I said, the number for the last full year, 2020, we were 57%. I should know the actual pounds, shillings and pence, but I can't remember it, so I'm not going to bluff you, but we can get that. But it's a very simple point. It is one of the fastest growing investment markets, and our performance is better than anywhere else in it. And this is why we've put particular resource into it in terms of this West Midlands India partnership, which is properly staffed, structured. I've done calls with West Midlands, with the UK India Business Council, the Commonwealth Enterprise Council the other week, and I talk about the opportunities that there are here. And I think it's the 5th of November, a famous date. I'll be going off to India on another trade promotion event. So I'm sorry I can't give you the stat, but I hope that proves that we're on to this as a really big opportunity.
Since so much more investments coming from India and it's growing, how would you want to see the Hindu community engaged so they can jump on apprentices or get more jobs involved? What needs to be done on your side, and what needs to be done from us as a community to get and benefit from employment or businesses or retail or anything that we can do to aid in that?
Well, actually, I think you already are. If I look at the ethnic composition or faith composition of some of the new recruits for some of the big investors, I think you're extremely well represented, actually. So if you look at the people who are the backgrounds of people who are getting new digital qualifications and moving into the big IT companies, so think of the best example of all, Goldman Sachs. They came here because of the talent, and you look at the recruits they're bringing in, a lot of those are members of the Hindu faith. So I think you're actually already doing well. But the answer to how this has to work is that what we do, literally, when we've got a big investor coming, we will talk with them about what the skill requirement is. And I'll talk about HS2 as the single biggest investor. And I know it's a British company, but the principle is exactly the same as an overseas company. We will sit down with them and we will say, what do you need? Where are the shortfalls? And then we will actually construct training programs to address those shortfalls. And for example, we've set up construction training facilities directly working for HS2 and then use people to draw in, usually if they haven't got skills already, from the Department of Work and Pensions, but if it's a higher skilled level, it tends to be drawing people in from existing employers. So our job, the CA job, is to design the training facility and capacity that's needed for the inward investor. And if you look at Goldman Sachs, obviously very much the top end, we're working with them on their current recruitment. They basically said to us, there's no cap on the number of jobs that there will be here. They've got about 110 live vacancies. And again, we are looking at what training is put in place for those who are freshly joining with them. So our job is the sort of training link, the conduit between the opportunity and those looking for those jobs. Is that clear, Jazz?
Yeah, to a certain point, yeah, because that's what you've told us what's available, but how are yourself and everybody else getting this down to the little communities? Because I've just heard of this just now from you. I've not heard of the company that you've mentioned. I couldn't spread it to my people, couldn't spread it down to the temples. Maybe some of them know it individually. So maybe something needs to be done on the marketing level there, or a bit more in engagement. Like I said, I've just heard this from you when I've asked these questions. I'm not aware of anything like that.
That's probably fair. I would say we're trying to use all the standard communication channels, but we've probably not done a good enough job at doing it through the temples. And if Jazz, you think there's something we can do in terms of what vacancies are there currently? Because you'll be interested in this. There are currently in Birmingham alone, 82,000 vacancies for jobs. I mean, it's an incredible number. In the whole of the West Midlands, it oscillates around a bit, but about 150,000 vacancies, never been more. And so to match that up with people looking for work, that's what we're both trying to provide the training courses and then get that message spread out. And of course, the first place we use are the job centres and indeed the colleges when people are leaving them, because that's where people tend to be looking. But I'm more than happy to do a newsletter for the temples. Yeah.
Okay. Before I come to James, I have one final one. With these jobs that are going across, and you said there's several 82,000 jobs. You said on a side track, might not be exactly your 100 remit again. We had this meeting with levelling up community, etc. So make sure the jobs are as reflect the community that they serve, etc. That includes policing, apprentices. Any offers or any jobs that go along.
Yeah.
When people face discrimination, how do you eliminate that, and what are you doing to make sure that's not happening, so everybody does get an equal chance at the jobs that they are entitled to without the barriers people can face?
Yeah. Okay, so there's three answers to that. But the first thing, we've actually, on some of the programs we've put together, we've actively encouraged those from ethnic minority backgrounds to get the jobs by choosing which training providers we go with. Because if you choose a training provider who are deliberately working with ethnic minority youngsters, that will inevitably follow. And this particularly applies with some of the work we've done around digital skills, where those from some ethnic minority backgrounds are a lot less, they find access a lot less easy. So in a sense, we haven't just been neutral, we've deliberately tried to intervene positively here. The second thing that we've tried to do is, of course, where there are really talented people, we've tried to get them ready for board positions, talented people from ethnic minority backgrounds that have been the specific activity of our leadership commission, because sometimes people just need a break. Because I want to see more people from your communities, not just in politics, but also leading businesses. And often a way through is to get them onto a board position in a non-executive position in the first place. So we've actively done that. And then the third thing we've tried to do is very much make sure that those who are doing the selections cannot possibly be prone to any form of discrimination by doing a whole load of what we call, what's the best way of describing it? Making sure that our boards and our leaders fully represent the community, so they themselves are not then going to be unconsciously biased in their own recruitment decisions. So we've tried to tackle this in different ways. I'll be honest, there's still a long way to go. There isn't anywhere in the country that has fully tackled this successfully, but I genuinely think you can look and say we have attempted to change the course here.
I think in one of the statements, not from yourself or somewhere I've read, there's meant to be 1,000 BAME community police officers recruited. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct. Yes, that's right.
What have you achieved so far on that?
Well, that was that's for the PCC to answer how we've actually recruited. But I'll tell you what we've done. Yeah. I'll tell you what we've done again. And this again is a really a unique thing in the West Midlands. We have used the funding we've had through our apprenticeship levy money, where big companies that aren't using the levy put it for a smaller organisation, to actually use that cash for the training and recruitment of those officers. So we've actually made the cash available for that active recruitment.
So the stats will be available then, and from
here? Yeah, they have to be. I can try to get you an update from the PCC, but it's he who's doing that recruiting, or the force who's doing the recruiting, not me. But we can pursue that to get an update.
Excellent. Jane Delalji, you got your hand up, or is that a previous one? You're on mute. Go on, far away.
Now I know your remit is transport. You have introduced a clean air within the ring road in Birmingham. Now, people, if they want to save the charges, they go by bus. Now, I don't know whether you have noticed, there are no buses along the ring road on the eastern side, which is the Watery Lane, Mitchell's Lane, that way. Now, the city is expanding that way. And if anybody from South Birmingham, say Stratford Road or Coventry Road, any buses, they have to go to city centre and walk back to university or the science park or the Optegra Eye Hospital and all the other developments going along the ring road on the east side. Now, traditionally, that was because there were many railway bridges with a height restriction. But now, with the ring road being improved, the buses can go underneath.
Okay. So
but the transport planners have forgotten.
I'm sorry, Jane, is there a question there? Because of the time, we've got 2 or 3 questions more in the.
Yeah, okay, I'll be brief. So there are buses to create the ring on the eastern side. The number 8, the inner ring, as it's been for a long time. I know it doesn't go down the exact road you're talking about. Also, some of the science park, BCU, all of that, that's incredibly well served by buses. I think 14, 55, 94, all of those. What there isn't is a bus that goes, say, from the St Andrews Stadium directly round to there. It's a fair point because the geography of the city is changing. And so the way this has to work is if the demand's there, of course it will come. So it's a fair detail point which look at, but it isn't true to say the total area isn't well served. It's incredibly well served by routes, actually.
Okay, we've got a question from Tulsidas. Would there be a chance of buses and or transports running for the OAP or the disabled instead of booking ring and ride made available in the West Midlands?
Yes, so what's happening? I think you'll be really interested in this. First of all, I hope you think ring and ride is good. It's very competitively priced. It genuinely is at your behest. I mean, I've ridden on it myself to see the service. It is a brilliant service and most users absolutely love it. So oddly enough, I'm slightly surprised that the question is critical of it. Yeah. But anyway, what you should know though, is we're trialling in Coventry and Solihull something that I think has got incredible potential. It's called Bus on Demand. That's what it says on the side. And it's like almost like an Uber for buses. The technology it uses is the same as Uber to plan a journey, but it doesn't just try to take one individual. It tries to take a small minibus, though, to make the price competitive. It's very good in lowly, densely populated areas like the rural areas of Solihull, like South Coventry, and it's proving very successful. So there is hope of something different coming. It's a great trial, and we've rolled it out to a much larger area recently, And I hope in time we can extend it much more broadly. So yeah, there's a good innovative solution, but please don't criticize Ring and Ride. Most people absolutely love it.
Okay, excellent. So is there any other questions come across? Please keep. Okay, so we've got Omik saying, Andy, please keep up the good work. You have my vote.
Thank you.
For the next time as well, if you plan to run again for mayorship.
Who knows? Who knows? There's no limit. There's no limit, but we have to think.
I'm sure you'll do a good job. And I hope India-UK FTA is signed before the year end. FTA.
Yes, so do we, because we can benefit a lot from that, because one of the reasons we're doing well is that the sectors we're strong in, like this electric vehicle stuff. I told you about Norton, but there's also companies like Ola, India's big hailing company that's there. It's their equivalent of Uber. They've committed to making electric vehicles here. So, you know, there is so much. I've forgotten the other big Indian motorcycle group, Hero Group. They're examining building here. So there's a real, what's the word? There's a real fit of our two economies. So we can gain a lot from the FTA.
So the motorcycles in India, I think they've started doing electric motorcycles. Is that something planned to be made over here?
No, the Norton motorcycle, I should have said, that is electric as well. So that Indian company will be manufacturing an electric motorcycle in Coventry. And there's also another Indian company have taken over the BSA brand. We'll all remember the Birmingham Small Arms brand of many years ago, the biggest motorcycle manufacturer in the world. That is now being brought back to life as well, but I think it's Mahindra who are bringing that back. So there's a number of different Indian investors behind electric motorbikes.
Okay, so that's good. I think that's it. Anybody else got any more questions? No, I think we're fine. Anything? Go on. Sorry, Andy, go on.
No, I was just going to say, if we're coming to an end, and I'm going to let you have the last word, Jazz, obviously, but there's been a number of things I've said I'll follow up, which are largely the sort of casework piece. Suki will get them down, and hopefully we've got your emails, so we will come back to you on those casework pieces.
Yeah, so I'll send either Suki and yourself an email with what we've discussed today and the follow-ups. If you could, one of you get back to us so we can down to the channels. Going forth, I know that the 5th of May is the elections. Do you want to say anything on that, Andy?
Oh, well, of course, my name is not on the ballot paper this time, but there are Conservative candidates across the region. And I would simply put it to you this, that I hope if you live in Walsall, in Dudley and Solihull, you can see that Conservative councils have done a very good job and have really delivered and have kept council tax as low as they can. Other areas, I'm not going to be overtly political tonight, but I would just ask you to use your judgment about who you think will serve you on the ground and who's got a business-like approach to delivering for citizens. But most importantly of all, vote, because many people died for the right to vote, died for the right to vote. And we youngsters must never forget that and must actually make sure we exercise it appropriately.
No, that's I think that's well said, Andy. A lot of people don't vote, and then sometimes when they don't see the results, they moan about it because they haven't exercised the right to vote. So I would recommend as well. So get out and vote. So coming to make sure that the session comes to a nice end, I want to thank you, Andy, for taking time out and engaging with the Hindu community. I think we've achieved a lot of questions answered, and the one thing that we definitely come out with today is what your remit is. So, so I think that we can run away with that and take that on board. Regarding the investments, I think that's something that we all need to look into, what's happening in the West Midlands, are the jobs available? So if you can keep us
we'll follow that.
Yeah, that's essential. And again, thank you, Suki, as well. I know she's not showing her face today, but she's online, I can see her. So thank you for reining this, Suki. I think it may be well to do something this on a quarterly basis or something. We stay on top of it. So we don't bombard you with something that's unnecessary. So we can actually make it more productive. And I think that's key for any organization to survive, is communication with its community. So again, thank you everybody for joining today. I hope everybody leaves away with some questions that I've answered. And hopefully we'll do this again. Until next time. Again, thank you. Take care of yourself, everybody, and each other.
Thank you. Good night,
everyone. Bye for now. Good night.
Bye-bye.
Jai Shri Krishna.
Jai Shri Krishna.
Jai Shri Krishna, Badane.
Yes,
Bye.
Krishna.